Welcome back. As we continue off with the conversations this morning, the Namibia Oil and Gas Conference is expected to start today, bringing together key players, policymakers, and industry experts to discuss opportunities, challenges, and the future of this rapidly emerging sector. We recently had a representative from the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board sharing insight on the investment landscape. Now, this morning, we turn our focus to a critical aspect of the industry, local content. How do we ensure Namibians are not just spectators but active participants, equipped with the right skills and knowledge to benefit from this growing sector? We're now joined in studio by the director and lead consultant of Nautilus Mining, that is Fernando Sylvester, who will shed light on the importance of education, empowerment, and building a local capacity in the oil and gas value chain. Mr. Sylvester, very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Indapio. It's good to be here.
Amazing. First things first, the Namibia Oil and Gas Conference has drawn significant attention this year. From your perspective, what are some of the key local content issues that are being discussed?
So the conference actually kicks off today, and then it runs until Friday. And the lead up to the conference, a lot of the conversations that I've been hearing have been around skills development, which is obviously very good. We need a skilled labor workforce in order for us to take advantage of the opportunities that will eventually get here. And in the same breath also, with the skills development, we need to look at localization of supply chain. So what that means is it might be okay to have a local content policy, but if you don't have local capacity, then you run the risk of what's called the Dutch disease, which some other African countries fell victim to. And essentially, what the Dutch disease is this, that if you have an increase in a resource in the country, like a sudden increase in a resource, and in our case, hydrocarbons, oil and gas, you get sort of a decline in the economy in the other sectors in the economy, because costs go up. Like your currency value goes up, so exports from other sectors in the economy can't compete globally. So essentially we need to have a skills development looked at, supply chain, and that's for the local content, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. But when we talk about local content in the oil and gas sector, what does it practically mean for the ordinary Namibian, if you can say it in layman terms?
For you and me?
Yes.
Very simply put, it's direct employment.
Okay.
But quality direct employment. Local content for the household means mom and dad is employed directly in the industry.
Are we referring to employment of Namibians?
Namibians.
Okay.
Yeah. Local. Sorry, I thought it's self-explanatory. Namibian.
Yeah.
So direct employment, and what that leads to is also in indirect employment as a result of the industry. If you take an example, Norway, for example, every petroleum sector worker in Norway, on average, earns about 40% more than the national average. And similarly, more recently, if you look at Guyana across the pond, what they've seen is welders, boilermakers, technicians, people that have that skill set, after they get accredited petroleum industry training, their salaries also increase by 3 to 4 times. So it's that's the genuine impact that the industry can have on us locals.
Yeah. But how well positioned do you think Namibia currently is in terms of skills, training, and just education to meet the demands of this industry? I mean, it's one thing to employ your own people, but if your people do not have the skills, what then? But how well is Namibia positioned?
Look, I'll be honest, okay? Obviously, we're starting from a very challenging position. And that challenging position is, obviously, we don't have 50 years experience, 50 years of oil and gas industry, like Nigeria, like Norway. But what we do have is world-class institutions. We have NAST, we have UNAM, that have depth of academic foundation, so they can roll out programs in a very practical timeline that allows for us to sort of build our local capacity. Before, we had to go abroad to go study for oil and gas. But obviously, we also have a very long-standing mining sector. Yes, and that mining sector employs the same people. You require the same skill sets. Geologists know how to analyze the subsurface. Engineers know how to navigate complex projects, and technicians know how to work their instruments. So the pivot that we need to do is not that big, essentially, for us to be skilled in the oil and gas sector. Yeah. And I've seen it happen. Petrofund recently sent 3 NUS graduates, I think it was to Malaysia, for oil and gas training. So we understand the needs. We are acting swiftly. So I'm not concerned about that too much, really, because I know who we are as a nation and what we are capable of.
All right. Now, seeing that you are the director and lead consultant of Nautilus Mining, what role can companies like Nautilus Mining play in breaching the skills gap and ensuring that Namibians are fully equipped to take part in the oil and gas value chain?
An easy one, thank you.
Okay.
Very, very simply put, we are actively trying to engage with universities to see if we can bridge the gap between industry requirements and what academia is teaching. Because I've seen a lot of the times that there tends to be a disconnect between what is required practically in the industry versus what academia would teach, but that gap is being made smaller, for lack of a better term. So that's one thing that we in the private sector are doing, and I say we because there's a lot of other companies that also do this. Local companies, we are not that many yet, so we are hopeful. And then also, secondly, a good thing that we've started doing is to take apprenticeship and mentorship programs. For example, this week is the oil and gas conference, and what Nautilus has done is to take in interns to just get a feel for the industry, get an understanding of what it is to be part of the industry, to make an informed decision. Do I want to pivot from what I'm currently doing, or do I want to stay? So that's essentially what Nautilus is doing, and that's also what the other private sector companies are doing.
All right. We have some who worry that without proper policies, proper policies, foreign companies might actually dominate the sector. What safeguards or framework would you like to see in place just to protect Namibian interests?
Okay, let's go examples again. Okay. We look at Nigeria. Unfortunately, what happened in Nigeria was their local content policy, they were very heavy-handed when they sort of employed the local content policy, but they didn't have the local capacity to back that up. And what that meant was the benefits were fewer. They saw obviously the Dutch disease, where they saw skyrocketing prices, and unfortunately, the local companies couldn't deliver, so that means there was always a push on the timeline, so there are always delays on projects. And if there's delays on projects, expatriates would be brought in, and they would get the project done in time. Conversely, if you look at Norway, what they did was, which is very good, they actually partnered with the international companies. They allowed for the international companies to come in so that they could develop their skill set. The Norwegians could develop their skill set so that they eventually could take over. And that's the model that we should follow, in my opinion. If you look at a company like Equinor, which is the national oil company for Norway, they're essentially a global player now, And they started off like for us, like Namco, and Namco is exactly doing that. Actually, they partner willingly with the international companies, and then we see that sort of that knowledge transfer happening. Even if you're not technical and you're not in the technical sessions, at least you see that during the meetings. And that's what we should be aiming for. That's the model that we should be going for, to prevent and to safeguard against this international sort of dominance, in a sense.
All right. I mean, earlier on you mentioned the Petrofund. helping or taking a few of their participants, like 3 of them, to Malaysia to actually go and, you know, perhaps just grab some of that knowledge from there. But what specific initiatives or program do you think could have the biggest immediate impact on the oil and gas industry right now?
Okay, so yes, you can go to established institutions like UNAM and us to get a degree, but that's 4 years. That's 4 to 6, depending on your specialization, you know.
Yeah.
What you need to be looking at for the immediate sort of timeline is, sorry, I made notes so that I can stay on track. I hope you don't mind.
No problem.
You need intensive technical certification programs. Okay, like what they did in Guyana. Guyana actually partnered with the University of Houston in America, and they have these 18-month programs that they roll out to ensure that if a candidate enrolls in the program, when the candidate steps out of the program, he or she steps into a job in the offshore industry, in the oil and gas industry. And then secondly, and this is a big one, we need more female representation in our industry. We need women in the oil and gas sector. It's nothing to do with equity. I don't quite like that term. It's about economic efficiency. The countries where we saw an increase in the female workforce also saw a higher number of productivity and a higher number of innovation. So I think that's sort of the main things that we need to look at immediately. Obviously, we also need to look at entrepreneurship sort of hubs to try and see how we can get SMEs into the industry. We need to equip these SMEs to get into the industry, provide seed funding and stuff like that. But for me, the main things is the short-term technical expertise needs to be increased, and we need more female representation in the workforce. And I mean, on the rigs, like, you know, looking at the logs, trying to decipher your gammas versus your resistivities. So that's the type of thing that we need to do. We need to be looking for the oil alongside so that we can have more participation within the industry.
All right. Mr. Sylvester, perhaps before we let you go, I want to find out, what is your vision for Namibia's oil and gas industry that could truly benefit the local population? And what steps can we take now to make that vision a reality?
Okay. Vision.
Yes.
Ambitious, but I want, in the next 10 years, we're 2025 now, so let's say 2035, I want us to be considered sort of the most sustainably, or the most sustainable producing oil and gas nation or the petroleum province in Africa. What that means economically is we have a high percentage of local involvement in the supply chain, for example, let's say 60 to 70%. We have at least 50% involvement of females in the sector. So practical steps, it's already being done. You know, we have the Velvicia Fund, so boost that fund. I know Petrofund is also in discussions. I don't know too much, obviously, but we need to have like a petroleum industry academy that's focused on our sector, because it is a big sector, and it's a sector that can change, you know, the future of an entire country. Never mind the country, actually, the region, because of this indirect impact that the oil and gas industry has on the surrounding sort of sectors. And I think that's it.
All right. Well, yes, Mr. Sylvester, thank you so much for joining us. All the best with the Oil and Gas Conference, and hopefully we get to have you back on the show just so you can give us a roundup of what transpired. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been very good.
All right. That was Fernando Sylvester, who is the director and lead consultant at Nautilus Mining, joining us this morning, talking to us there. More conversations coming your way. To stay with us.